Hour number 3. Coming to you live. This is Lock and Load. I was involved in a Facebook discussion. Somebody on Facebook was talking about what happened in St. Louis with the couple that was they came out of their palazzo-style home and defended it. They had guns in hand and they were defending it. And one person was thinking, well, you know, this is somebody that's going to turn this into it's a death penalty for trespass, and they weren't trespassing. I tried to explain to them about disparity of force. That didn't work. Then the thing came up. This is what the police are for. This is why the police have guns, and that's why the police are there, and that's what it was all about. And it occurred to me. Now this is a discussion that's going on in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I live in the upstate of South Carolina now, so it occurs to me because like right around here, where I live, nobody's calling for the defunding of police. I talked to 2 young men that are police officers, sheriff's deputies actually last night, and they were just out. I went out to get Chinese food, and they were there, I guess, getting Chinese food. And I just asked them, how are things going for you? And they're getting no pushback. But in the wake of all of the George Floyd riots, police are being demonized across the board, across the country. Each and every officer now being held responsible for the action of their least worthy member, which has been happening to gun owners for years. That's beside the point. They're also being targeted for defunding, as if any society on earth could exist without some measure of policing, without turning into the Lord of the Flies. And it's not getting a lot of press, but stories are dribbling out rapidly about a collective call for help. Some 272 New York police officers retired in the wake of the George Floyd riots, a 49% spike over the year earlier. Seattle was similar. Its forces are operating at just 65% capacity. Minneapolis has seen at least 7 resignations. Joel Pollack at Breitbart News has an astonishing report about police demoralization in L.A. He writes, morale within the L.A. Police Department is currently at a record low thanks to the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests and the vilification of police by local politicians. Robert Harris, the director of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, told CBS Los Angeles that officers feel beaten and bruised by the ongoing protests. That was corroborated by a Breitbart News source within the LAPD who said morale across the rank and file is at a record low, especially out in the street on patrol. We have been vilified and abandoned by the mayor, all but 3 of the city council members, as well as many business owners and residents of the city of Los Angeles. Mayor Eric Garcetti announced at the height of the riots in early June with the National Guard on the streets that he would be cutting the LAPD budget by up to $150 million, answering calls from activists to defund the police. Now, it's bad. It's bad. But it pretends some bad times as police jobs are abandoned. And early retirements are spiking upwards. Back to Breitbart. The citizens think crime and homelessness is bad now. They have seen nothing yet, the LAPD source told Breitbart News. Wait till a couple of months go by. Proactivity is all but gone. It sucks, but the community has allowed cops to be vilified. When there's blood in the streets due to drastic increase of out-of-control violent crime, then all of the people, including businesses who have turned their backs on cops, will learn of the mistake they made on selling us out. Now, police demonization didn't start with the George Floyd case, but it doesn't help that every major city in America is under one-party blue rule. And in the absence of Republicans, the ruling leftist elites use police as one of their proxies since they have no Republicans to fight against. This is, you know, if you want to see what things would be like in the country, you don't have to look too far. Just look at Los Angeles or Atlanta or Chicago. You don't have to go very far. Yet, police don't stand for Republican or Democrat sides. They are actually a proxy for fairness and the rule of law. And law is what the left really despises. The left has always been about obtaining unfettered power without any sort of burden from law. And a good guess for when the rot started in the downhill slide in the respect for law and order could be argued to be the decriminalization of marijuana law. And from there, the emptying of prisons, which began in earnest shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic. By the way, while they're sitting around telling you that you have to social distance, can't you enforce social distancing in a prison? So, but this was the time for the academic rhetoric against mass incarceration. That likely had some effect. And the calls to end prisons, like coming from the longtime lionized communist Angela Davis in a speech at UCLA a few years ago, added to the slide. And meanwhile, the leftist protesters rocked the streets and looted shops with the George Floyd riots. Hollywood jumped in and took police shows off the air. That'll show them no more cops, no more live PD. Suddenly, cops were en masse painted as evil instead of heroes. And now with this talk of defunding police, and police are moving out ahead of it by resigning first. And the failure of the Democrat Blue City polls and their voters to back the police forces under their command is driving it most of all. Because these people are cowards, and they're going to preen and posture about not wanting a police force. But what happens to them when you finally get it? Because the result is going to be hellishness. And in the meantime, the existing forces are showing signs of distress, which will make itself felt in many different ways in coming days. Recruiting will be down. Or recruiting will attract the worst, including organized criminals with an interest in controlling and corrupting the system rather than protecting their community. One of the things that happened in New York was the Sullivan Act. And that was a law passed, so only one gang could have guns. Sullivan gang. Police themselves will retire at their desks, seeing nothing, doing nothing proactive, and they're not going to take any chances. And I don't blame them. Those that remain will focus only on making an early retirement for their pensions, and in these instances, police won't be defunded. They'll just be expensive zombies for the cities. And the burden rests then on mid-sized and small cities to develop a new culture of supporting police forces. Police are human beings, and they're going to respond to incentives. And any town that wants them had better be prepared to defend them. And right now, that's not seen in the crumbling blue cities that, by no coincidence, are seeing the citizens flee too. I really am interested to see what's going to happen when they get exactly what they want. Because once the cops are gone, all the good people are going to leave. All the law-abiding people are going to leave. This will become like a no man's land. It'll become a no-go zone. It will become like Escape from L.A. or Escape from New York, where maybe we'll wall the city up or something. I don't know. Or maybe we'll wall the state of California up. I have no idea how this is going to work. Thankfully, I live in an area where we still support law enforcement. I know they're not perfect. I get it. But what are they going to have when they're gone? And in the meantime, there's still a group of people out there that I know some of them, and they're out there saying, this is why you have the police. Well, not everybody sees it that way, pal. Not everybody sees it that way. They want to both take your guns and they want to take your police. And I don't know what you think that leaves you. I really don't. So we'll see what comes of this. But in the meantime, the blue cities are going to continue to hemorrhage people. Law enforcement. I mean, in L.A., the pensions are really high. They're $30 billion in the hole, or $50 billion in the hole anyway. So these guys that just want to quit and cruise until it's time to retire, thank you very much for taking the time to serve your community. I'm sorry they didn't back you up or support you, and you earned that retirement. We'll be right back. This is Lock and Load.